This week's episode of HBO's limited series, The Staircase, had so many Emmy-worthy scenes. Let's recap episode 7 of The Staircase. Out the gate, there's a home invasion involving two of Michael's former lovers, Dennis Rowe and TYRONE LACOUR. Well, it appeared to be a home invasion, but we learned soon enough that it's a deadly lover's quarrel and Rowe's bludgeoned to death with a flashlight. Then we pick up from last week's episode where Rudoff is petitioning for Michael to sign the Alfred plea, and Michael's refusing. Then we cut to Sophie visiting Michael in jail, and she's so distressed because it looks like Michael's never going to get out of jail, or at least anytime soon. So Sophie lies to Michael that she's going back to Paris to edit a movie, but she actually stays in Durham, North Carolina to explore the theory that one of Michael's former lovers might have murdered Kathleen with a flashlight. According to her, the blunt force trauma was enough of an impact to leave rigid impressions on her skull without fracturing it. Meanwhile, Martha saved enough money to visit Germany. She wants to go back to her homeland, her birthplace, and she wants to visit the place where her mother was murdered. Patty arranges for her to see that staircase where her mom was living. Someone else is residing in the home. She learns that after Michael was awarded custody of she and Martha, that he wanted to give Martha. Martha learns that after Michael was awarded custody of her and her sister Margaret, that he wanted to give her up because Martha had, as he put it, uncontrollable fits while she was mourning her mother and her father. She was 3 years old and he couldn't take it. She's re-traumatized. It's sad what these kids have suffered. And then the Innocence Project, headed by Evelyn Ivins, works on clearing Michael's name based on corruption within the SBI in North Carolina. And medical examiner Deborah Radisch examines Dennis Rowe's skull fracture. Sophie thinks she got an email from Deborah Radisch about Rowe's death, about Rowe's murder, and this new finding. Turns out Dennis Rowe had blunt force trauma to the head without skull fracture again, and Kathleen's injuries are no longer an anomaly in the state of North Carolina. But this is not satisfactory to Sophie. She continues to dig and dig and dig to find an excuse for Michael. Dennis Rowe and Kathleen had something else in common: Michael Peterson. So Sophie goes back and reviews documentary footage and finds Michael lying about knowing Dennis Rowe. Thing is, when Rowe was murdered, Michael was in prison. So the implication is that Michael's other lover, TYRONE LACOUR, murdered Dennis Rowe and Kathleen. Then we flash back to Kathleen Christmas shopping. Remember, she loved the holidays, but she's budgeting and being frugal with her purchases, including the decorative deer and even a gold watch for her husband Michael. Ivins, meanwhile, meets with Freda Black, so we do get some Parker Posey this week, but Freda Black is working at the counter of a dry cleaner's. So she's no longer a prosecutor, she's working at a dry cleaner's. Ivins exposes Durham County Prosecutor's Office of quid pro quo, incentivizing the SBI for evidence that will lead to convictions. Freda Black admits it's problematic, but not illegal. It's actually unethical and illegal. Sophie interviews Detective Art Holland. He corroborates the facts and evidence that conclude Michael killed Kathleen. He even reveals that Tyrone LACOUR killed Dennis Rowe, but LACOUR couldn't have killed Kathleen because when she was murdered, LACOUR was in jail. That is an anomaly. But he says he'll look into it further to appease Sophie. Art clearing LACOUR of killing Kathleen devastates Sophie. She's desperate for Michael to be innocent, but it's not looking good. Days before Kathleen's murder, Michael tells her that his book is being optioned for $10,000. She's like, $10,000, they need so much more, like they're really underwater, but he's excited, and so she says it's worth celebrating. So Sophie goes to visit Michael in jail and confesses that she never left North Carolina for Paris because she wanted to look further into whether or not Dennis Rowe, Michael's former lover, possibly killed Kathleen. And she knows that he slept with Tyrone LACOUR and Dennis Rowe. He promises she won't have to share him with men. So Evelyn Ivins with the Innocence Project claims Michael's innocent. She's taking down Duane Deaver, who was corrupt and was burying exculpatory evidence that could have cleared Michael during his trial and others, and she infers that this issue in North Carolina is systemic. She helps get Greg Taylor exonerated, who served 19 years for a murder he didn't commit. And this was touched on in an earlier episode because Duane Deaver and the North Carolina SBI hid evidence. So with this information, after seeing this on the news, Michael's brother Bill storms into Rudoff's office. But Rudoff's already been working on a hearing because Duane Deaver lied about his experience and perjured himself on the stand. Sophie tries to get Michael to accept the Alford plea so he can be relatively free. He doesn't want to admit to Kathleen's murder. Then we're back at Nortel. Kathleen is terrified that she's going to be laid off. She's called into the office with the executive board, and they basically tell her that they won't be getting bonuses this year. And the scene. Toni Collette is a master. This scene, she is relieved, but then devastated in how she inhabits this character. Not even character, this real life person of Kathleen and what she would have been feeling in this moment. Give her the Emmy. She breaks down saying the stock just plummeted. I think it was 27 points, plummeted, wiping out her entire retirement, which was about $1 million. I mean, the scene. And even a later scene where she breaks this to Michael during his celebratory dinner for his $10,000 for optioning his book. It's brutal because he's so matter-of-factly and is like, oh, you'll handle it, when she is tired, overworked, and undervalued. I mean, she gives him a piece of her mind. She explodes because he's been coasting off of her money. He's living a soft life off of her. And they leave that restaurant, they're at a Chinese restaurant, they leave that restaurant and she's like swerving home, not drunk, just pissed. She swerves all the way home and she chases away the bats in her attic with a leaf blower. She finally has won something. This is 4 days before she's murdered. Toni Collette and Parker Posey give phenomenal performances this week. I mean, they are two of our best. This is such a great episode. I mean, I don't see how she doesn't get the Emmy. Toni Collette, I mean, thank you so much if you stuck around this long. I certainly appreciate you. Please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And until next episode, peace.